Yes, sir.
Good morning. Namaskaram. Can you all hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm glad that you are able to hear me. First of all, let me say thank you very much, Swami Hari Prasad ji, for two things. One immediate and one which has been a matter of great inspiration to me for the last several years. That was when Swamiji, with his charismatic personality, managed to persuade me to become a member of the Vishnu Mohan Foundation. I have been functioning as a member of the Vishnu Mohan Trust for the last several years, and he keeps consulting me, I don't know for whatever it is worth, in many, many matters, and I try to help him and the foundation within the limits that are available to me. I am indeed grateful to him and to the other members of the trust who have been very, very helpful to me and from whom I have gained a lot of knowledge, information, and flow of goodwill, which is the most important thing that could happen. I have been carefully listening to the speeches, and I personally believe that the speech the presentation which Shri Ambassador Tirumurti gave was really enlightening because it gave a broad view, a helicopter view, as they say, of all that is happening currently in the world. In fact, one sentence which he mentioned struck me and I have noted it down. He said, as a diplomat, he encountered more conflicts than reconciliation, more fights than peace. And he is still, I am sure, directly or indirectly involved in bringing about reconciliation, peace, harmony, and goodwill amongst the various conflicting parties. In fact, I was reminded of the famous statement of Rumi, of whom I am a great acolyte and admirer. He said, Sulhe azdadast umre in jahan. The life of this world is a reconciliation of opposites. That means that a man like Ambassador Tirumurti and people of his community of diplomats, I mean, people of the community of diplomats are constantly engaged in trying to bring about reconciliation among opposites. Their life of diplomacy is continuous resolution of conflicts, resolution of wars, resolution of fights, and amongst all these things, the kind of equanimity which Ambassador Tirumurti displayed today, standing at the podium, deserves to be complimented for the kind of balance he has maintained, not only in his personal life, but in his presentation also. I have a small cottage on the coast near the sea of a small village called Kovalam, which is 30 miles from Chennai, 50 kilometers. Out of my multifarious engagements, I find rarely time to go there once in 3 or 4 months. And I am in the neighborhood. You can say that cottage is located within maybe 100 yards of a mosque in front, another 100 yards or 150 yards on my left with a very big temple. And on my right, I always see a church with the cross and the statue of Christ on top. So you can say that I am surrounded by the three great religions of the world: Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam. All three religions are there. In the mornings, early mornings, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I hear the Moosa from the minaret shouting in the loudspeaker, Ashhadu Anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God. Now, I was wondering, Muhammad was born and lived 1400 years ago in a remote corner of Arabia, in a place called Mecca. Most of his life, up to the age of 40, he lived as an orphan, looked down upon by his own community of Quraysh, and at the age of 25, he was lucky to find a patron in the form of a lady merchant whose caravans he used to take. She wanted to marry him as a very honest, straightforward. She married him. So he married this lady called Khatija at the age of 25, and she was 40 years old. They lived happily. And then when he was 40 years, 15 years after his marriage, and when he had become a very mature man of 40, in a cave where he used to retire every year for a month or two to meditate, the Quran was revealed to him by God. And he was ordered to go and preach to the people peace, equality, balance, kindness to orphans, etc., etc., etc. Now, there is a lot of misunderstanding about the Quran in the world, and especially in India, because you can take very small bits here and bits there and interpret them to mean that they encourage hatred against other communities and so on. If you read the Quran in a very proper manner, read it, I'm sure that Ambassador Tirumurti must have studied the Quran since he knows Arabic very well. He would be aware of the fact that you can take anything out of context, whether it is from the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and interpret it to mean that these books are conflict-creating books. They create conflicts. Unfortunately, many people fall in line to the belief that these books, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Quran, New Testament, Old Testament, all these books are conflict-creating books. Had they been conflict-creating books, would they have survived for these millennia? Would people still be studying them and reading them and writing about them? I don't think so. In fact, I recall once again words of my master Rumi. Rumi said, that the creator of Quran gave you instruments and means to interpret the ayats of the Quran, the shlokas. Now, if your interpretation is leading to conflicts, is leading to fights, is leading to misunderstanding, then my friends, burn those instruments and throw those means out of the window. This is Rumi's advice, that don't interpret religious books, religious texts in a way as to create conflicts. I think Jagat Guru just now mentioned about the role of religion and the creation of the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a concept which has been there from the Vedas. It is in the Quran called Ummatan Wahida, one people. Ummat means people. Wahida means one, single. So Ummatan Wahida means the creation of one people, one world, where all are related to each other. I remember the lessons which Vasishta gave to Rama in his book, which is written down, Yoga Vasishta, where he says, everyone is your brother in this world. Everything is your brother in this world, not only human beings. Human beings, animals, inanimate objects, they are all related to you and you are related to them. Therefore, honor, respect, and love everyone around you. This is the lesson which Vasishta gave to Rama thousands of years ago. And that is the lesson which Quran has revealed to Muhammad, gives mankind, that you all belong to one Ummatan Wahida. You all belong to one family, one people. If you all belong to one family, how can you have conflicts? How can you have fights? How can you kill each other? In fact, Ambassador Tirumurti talked about terrorism. Terrorism is a total aberration from the Islamic concept. Islam and the Quran very clearly says that if you kill one human being, Mr. Ambassador Tirumati may recall this verse from the Quran, if you kill one human being, it is as though you have killed the whole humanity. If you save one human being, it is as though you have saved the whole of humanity. That means that every individual life also matters. You cannot know terrorists. Of course, the terrorists will have their own justification. As Rumi said, it is easy to take words out of the Quran with the instruments that you have got in your hand of interpretation and give your own interpretation and say that Quran sanctions killing of infidels, killing of apostates, killing of school-going girls like Malala. All that you can interpret in your own way. But that, as Ruby says, throw out those instruments which lead to conflict, which lead to killing. Therefore, as the Jagat Guru said, religion should be utilized to bring about conflict resolution, should be utilized to bring about reconciliation amongst people, should be utilized to draw people close together. I am always reminded, again referring to Rumi, one of the stories in the Masnavi, where Rumi talks about Moses. When the prophet Moses was walking along on the road, he saw a shepherd sitting by the roadside and lifting his face to the heavens. He was saying, Lord God, please come down. I want to see you. I want to make chappals for you. I want to sew clothes for you. I want to take out the lice from your hair. I want to comb your hair. Do come down, Lord. Do come down so that I can serve you. Moses stops there and turns to that man. He said, you blasphemer, does God need your clothes? Does God need your chappals? Does God need you to take out the lice from his hair? You are blaspheming God. The shepherd gets abashed. God gets up and walks away. As Moses is moving away, God speaks to him and says, I sent you down into the world to bring people closer to me, not to drive people away from me. Here is a man who wanted to come closer to me, and you have driven him away from me. I do not look at the language that a man uses. Hindiara istilahe Hind madh, says Rumi. Hindiara istilahe Hind madh, Sindhyara istilahe Sindh madh. For the people of India, the idiom of India is most appropriate. For the people of Sindh, the idiom of Sindh is most appropriate. I look into the hearts of the people. I do not look at the language they have used. I do not look at the outward expressions which they coin to address me. I look at their sincerity. I look at their belief in me. So that if you can cultivate, peace can be brought about into this world. Conflicts arise because people have got purely selfish interests. Russia wants some part of the territory of Ukraine. Ukraine says, I do not want to part with that territory. I am holding that territory for the last maybe 70 years. East Timor in Indonesia felt that they were being oppressed by the Indonesian nations. South Sudan said that we have got oil in our area. Why should that oil benefit North Sudan? Kashmiris want independence because they feel that they have got their own orchards of apple and attract tourists. They believe that they could do that independently of India. These are all these selfish interests of each individual area, each individual person, which brings about conflict. If people forget these things, in fact, I wrote a book called Kashmir, the Land of Regrets. And I have mentioned in that book that the only solution for the conflict in Kashmir, this morning also I was reading in the paper that 2 persons were killed near the Alpha Gate of the army in Rajouri. I don't know whether they were terrorists or they were only ordinary people. That will come out only after the investigation is properly done. Now, in my book, I have given a solution as I see from my viewpoint. My solution is that every minority which feels that it is being oppressed, suppressed, cribbed, cabined, and confined, the solution for them is that they should develop knowledge, technology, and emerge as what Toynbee calls in his study of history. Toynbee uses the word that when a minority is not in a position to join at the top level in the government and rule the country or the nation, the solution for them is they should develop knowledge to such an extent that they become a creative minority. In India, we had the Kashmiri Pandits for a long time, for almost 300 years. They produced great savants, great philosophers, great scholars, great diplomats, great administrators, from Jawaharlal Nehru down to Haksar, P.N. Haksar and Ka, and diplomats are there, galore. All these happened because the Kashmiri Pandits who got exiled from Kashmir Valley developed into a creative minority. They became a creative minority, and by becoming a creative minority, they ruled India, though not directly, indirectly, through the then, except Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi, both of them of Kashmiri origin, no other prime minister has come from the Kashmir side. But there are many Kashmiri Pandits even today who are advising the top level of government on how to rule India, how to conduct their diplomatic movements, and so on and so forth. So therefore, to avoid conflict, to avoid loss of life, the best thing is don't lose your balance, don't lose your commitment to the country, don't lose your commitment to peace. Develop into a creative minority, as Toynbee calls, and by converting yourself into a creative minority, you can still rule, you can still be the top people in the country. So therefore, I think peace and reconciliation today is the order which requires to be followed up. Somebody asked, what is the way to peace? There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Peace is indivisible. You have to have peace as a philosophy, as a fundamental belief. Only if you have peace in your heart, in your own life, resolving all conflicts, only then will you be able to bring about peace in the rest of the world. Thank you very much.